We're good. We're recording.
Perfect. Okay. So I've already introduced myself and Jerry. I'm glad we're recording because we do have a few items of business. First of all, welcome and good morning. And thank you to the principals for joining us this morning. I know everybody's probably feeling pretty in the thick of things at this point. The routines of school and sports and extracurriculars and performing arts are all in full swing. And I know at least in our house, we're feeling it. So this will be a good opportunity for you to check in with your principals. We'll address a variety of topics. Mr. Egan will start with his slideshow, and then we'll move from there. Before we get there, we're going to launch a poll, please, to approve the October general meeting minutes. So please take care of that for us. I wanted to bring to your attention that next Tuesday is a grade 12 networking event. It's college decisions and the senior internship info. So please join us at 9:30. A web link will come out for that. Tomorrow, the PFA, thanks to your generous support, is providing an ice cream truck for our faculty and administration and staff. That was their vote. So we're happy to provide that for them. As a sort of little pick-me-up midway through this semester. And I just wanted to remind everybody who couldn't join us, last Thursday we had for the junior parents or frankly, anybody who's interested in what goes on in junior year, we had Managing Junior Year Stress. That was recorded and is on our website. And then we had yesterday the academic roadmap, understanding your GPA, Naviance, etc. for the sophomores. And again, I did get some inquiries from other than sophomore parents who are interested what was going on. That was recorded. If it's not posted yet, it will be in the next couple of days. So those are two that you can check out. And then please join us tomorrow if you're a senior or interested in that topic. And now, if you voted, that's awesome. And
we have unanimous approval, 26 out of 26 on the poll. So I'm going to end the poll.
Okay, super. And I'm going to end my thing and turn back to you.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank everyone for being here today. I am Bill Egan. I am the high school principal. I am joined by Christy Carrero, one of our assistant principals, and Larry Sullivan, another assistant principal. Mr. Rothman is our other assistant principal. He's tied up in something right now, but if he can join us later, that's awesome. But let me first start by sharing my screen. Hopefully everybody can see my screen at this point. Okay. Awesome. I think everybody's got access to it at this point. A couple things that we've gone over lately, I just want to share with you guys. At the Board of Education meeting the other day, we talked about our mastery-based diploma assessment, which is 1 credit for the junior class and below. The senior class is following old requirements. So the class of 2022, the areas are on something different. It's 2023 and below. Basically, what this means is just a change to the structure of the graduation requirements. As your students are going through their meetings with counselors, they'll have their graduation requirements broken up like this, where it's humanities, STEM, and some other areas that total 25 credits. The class of 2022, there was only 23 credits required for graduation. One of the credits is a mastery-based diploma assessment. And what that means for you guys as parents, it's not that much. It won't mean much to you. And for your children, it's going to be assessments that are already done in the classroom. However, there's reflections that students are going to be doing, and there are attributes of a graduate that really all schools in the area are kind of adopting in some way or another. But are students a thoughtful learner, active citizen? Are they resilient and discerning problem solvers? Are they effective communicators, mindful collaborators? Are they innovative and imaginative designers? Those are really the attributes we're looking for in the classroom. And there are many ways and many areas that they currently do this already. So there are artifacts from assured experiences in different areas of the curriculum. So every area has something that they do every year. It could be a lab, could be a research paper, it could be different things that happen in different areas. And they'll have reflections that are going to be done and then reviewed by a group of teachers through the Writing Center and some other teachers that volunteer to take on that review of these um, reflections as well. The impact for students should not be very large. This should be stuff that's already done during the course of the day. And then the reflections are going to be reviewed by teachers. Now, most people will probably meet this based on the work that they already do in the classroom. And if there are students that need to do something further, they'll be notified by, say, March of their senior year. They'll have time to reflect on that and fix the things that people in the Writing Center would think they need to. And that would be done by the time they go out on internship. Basically, what they're looking for is a summative reflection, which speaks to their learning experiences, 4 total pieces throughout their high school experience. And then they'll obviously make modifications for students that need it. Then they graduate. Ultimately, though, this is going to count as 1 credit. Now, it's not a classroom experience or time. Like, a class takes up 1 block of the day. This won't be that. This will be taken as short experiences that they already do. They have reflections that they generally already write, and they're going to be reviewed by a team of teachers. Larry or Christy, did I misrepresent anything on that? But the key for this is that will be one of their 25 credits, and that will be done during the course of the day. So it's not additional stress on students. There may be some work that we'll have to do in connections to kind of say, all right, let's organize this in a way that we need to, but it shouldn't be outside of the school day work really for kids. Additionally, we have transitioned to the block schedule here at the high school. And we've kind of ventured down the road of professional learning in a lot of different areas. We've gotten people readings and books. We've brought in a speaker in the beginning of the year to really work with our whole staff on the block schedule. And then we wanted to find a like school district, a successful school that's been doing work with the block schedule for years and can work with our teacher on teacher to teacher levels. We didn't want professional development experts. We wanted somebody to come in and really work with our teachers to kind of enhance their craft and share best practices. So we had a goal where we brought in some teachers from Palo Alto during our most recent professional learning day. And we want teachers to provide the opportunity to collaborate with departments on a craft that enhance their work with all students and opportunities within the block. Palo Alto came to us, and teachers from several disciplines, really all of our core areas. We had somebody for math, somebody for science, a joint person for English and social studies humanities. And then we had a world language person as well, come and work with our teachers and kind of take the work that they're doing, trying to make it more student-centered, and really kind of enhance their craft. Larry or Ari, anything you want to add on that? I'm Larry or Christy, sorry. Christy, I'm calling you Ari.
Okay.
Ari has joined us, so he is here as well.
Oh, good, awesome. And additionally, and I'll take questions on all of that. Additionally, I wanted to talk about, well, the first marking period is over. This is, it's been a wild couple of years, and it feels like we're back into school, although it's not necessarily normal. It's getting pretty close. Workload's there. Kids are playing sports again on a regular basis, and combining all of that is a real challenge. But one of the things I do, my daughter is a junior as well, is I sit and kind of have conversations about, okay, well, how did this first quarter go? How did you end up, with your grades? What is it that you are really proud of? And what is it that you think you need to do a little differently as you move forward? Setting goals for the second marking period is something I think is really important. And then kind of praising them. This has not been an easy time period for anybody. I can again speak to my own daughter, and she's got a ton of work, and she's working really, really hard, and she should be proud of that. But it's really kind of taking stock in where she is, and then saying, well, what can we do a little differently? But I also want her to be proud of how hard she's working to kind of make sure that she puts herself in the best position, have the most opportunities that she can have as she moves forward. I think it's really important to continually check in on their emotional well-being. This pandemic has not been easy for any of us in a variety of different ways. And returning to a sense of normalcy does have its challenges. So checking in on their emotional well-being on a regular basis, as I know you do, is really important. And the other thing is it's a partnership. We really can't be successful without each other. One thing I've said since I came to New Canaan is we have the best students in the state, but we also have the best parents in the state. They want to make sure that their kids are set up in the best atmosphere for them to be successful, both at school and at home. And they want to make sure that their kids are supported. But one of the things I always encourage people to do is we want to create self-advocates for our kids, have them ask questions themselves of their teachers. But also at this point, like I want to make sure that you're invested in your child's education too. If you feel the need to reach out to a teacher, feel free to do so. A quarter is a great spot to check in and say, well, what is it that I can do to help my child improve? Don't be afraid to ask questions. It's okay. We encourage it. And if there's things you need, we want you to utilize our teachers and counselors in any way that you can. Ari, Larry, Christy, anything else that you want to share as we wrap up the first market period?
No, I think particularly with the freshmen, recognize this has been a transitional period because of the way things were last year. In terms of school, it's a huge transition back into school and to high school. So I really think it's just a question of, looking at this as a learning curve and looking forward to continued growth and progress. That's really important.
Awesome. Normally I don't utilize the chat feature too much in these presentations, but we certainly will open that up for questions in a minute. But one thing I want to ask for is we have utilized the block schedule for a variety of purposes. One, for going to deeper learning for our students, another to kind of help the pace of the day and kind of slow down the pace of the day from having 8 classes or 7 classes in one day to 4. So I guess what I'd like from you guys, if you could, is maybe dump in the chat and we'll do a couple of different questions. But the first one being, strengths that you see in the block schedule. So, and don't be shy and we'll get some areas you'd like to see done differently as well. But strengths that you see within the block schedule.
Bill, you want this in the chat, right? Not the Q&A?
Yeah, I think the chat's better.
Yeah, okay.
Someone to say homework is more manageable, and that's true, right? If you have 4 in a particular night, that's great. Somebody else saying teachers get to know students a little better, right? More time in the classroom, it's more opportunities for connections with a teacher. Deeper dive into content, absolutely. Easier to plan for the next day and stay organized. You feel a little bit more like college in that regard, right? Like they have a day in between as you do stuff. One of the things in high school, if you remember back to when you were in high school, if you weren't in a block schedule, it might have felt monotonous. Same thing all the time. Here we have a rotating block schedule, so it's a little bit different in that way. Days are more focused, which helps. Less carrying materials. That's something I didn't even think about, but I think that really is. You don't have to carry everything every day. Greater depth of content. These are all great comments. Time for more collaborative work, more projects. Awesome.
Did you see the one that said teachers get to know the students better? I like that one.
How about things you'd like to know students better? You broke up for me a little bit. Did you say teachers get to know students better?
Sorry,
I
it
think
said
that's
teachers
awesome.
get to know the students better. Did you hear that? Yeah. Am I breaking up? I can hear
Yeah.
you now.
Yeah, but it could have been my internet, which is not good since I'm kind of hosting this. How about this now? How about things you'd like to see differently? Now, it's not that we can incorporate everything in there, but maybe there's an idea we're missing as we have our schedule. Is there something you'd like to see different? Somebody asked about why we chose Palo Alto in the beginning. Ultimately we looked around at different schools, but we had to find schools that were in the block and were high performing schools. So that's really how we got there. Palo Alto's had some national attention on it about why they chose the block for different reasons than us, although that was a part. They had some suicides and things like that. So they really wanted to slow down the pace of the day. So they were also mentioned in the book that we used as a reference point. I forgot the title of it now. I think it's Overwhelmed and Underprepared. So that was a piece of why we chose them. So we kind of reached out to the principal and got them to kind of work with us. But there are a variety of schools, and we may continue our work with different schools around the country. That is one of the things that we've talked about a little bit, is saying, why don't we kind of continue the conversation with different places?
I think, Bill, it's important people know that over the years, we'd also done some work with Fairfield and with Wilton in the area, who had gone to block schedules already over the last couple of years.
Correct. That is correct. Actually, we visited most of the schools in the state, to be quite honest with you, who were in the block. So the next question, I guess, from my perspective, is if we can talk briefly about, all right, we're in the block, we have our schedule now. Is there something you'd like to see done differently?
Bill,
in the chat.
Oh.
Yeah. In the chat, some people were talking about balancing a little better, that some days they have like 4 core courses, and then the next day they have like a study hall and gym and an elective. And is there any way to balance that a little better?
Sure. It's not always a wonderful setup with that.
That
the
was
one thing I would say about
there was an attempt to balance things out in building kids' schedules.
However, what I would say with that is it's not a perfect mix, and it never will be with that. But when you talk to kids, because we've actually polled kids even before we went into the block, when we visited those other schools, and one of the things that came up was the kids really enjoyed having a harder day or having what they consider to be an easier day. That helped with their overall pacing. They definitely saw a challenge, maybe to one day more than the other. And again, it's kind of random how that works. But they saw a blend in, okay, this is kind of healthy for me in the sense that, all right, I can push myself. I know this is a little bit of an easier day. Any other questions in there about how we could kind of improve what we kind of have right now? I'll throw out another question since we're kind of stalled on that, and that's good, more positives than negatives. RAM time. So we put in RAM time this year as an opportunity for students to gain access to their teachers within the course of the school day. And the purpose behind it was, A, you can get some help during the course of the day where you may not be able to do that previously. And B, at the very worst, you get an opportunity to get started on your homework. So just looking for some feedback on RAM time from a parent perspective. And one person says they love RAM time. One thing that, as you guys are writing in some notes, we basically, as administrators, we have lunch with kids randomly. Last year we didn't do it. It was just, it was hard with the pandemic, obviously. But we're going to start that again. And the same questions we're asking you, we're going to be asking kids, and we kind of rotate through that. It's random who we choose. But one of the things that we want you to know is we do ask kids these same questions. All right, seems to be great. Interestingly, we kind of talked to our department chairs about some of these things too. And where there was some initial trepidation about this, really enjoy it.
Mhm.
One more question, if you don't mind. Freshman study hall. I guess I think it's a wonderful thing as we transition to the high school. Is it something you'd want to see for the entire year for freshmen? Or is that something you'd like to see people kind of earn their way out of? And again, I'm undecided about this, so don't read into any thoughts. I'm really just looking for some feedback.
Bill, while you're waiting for that, can you hear me or am I cutting out? Is that
Yep.
okay? Okay. I think you sort of mentioned this, but I think it's an important point. If you didn't, that a number of parents are saying that RAM time makes their kids feel less reluctant about going for extra help. It's less like of a stigma and they feel it's more normal. And so that's just a huge benefit. I think if kids feel very confident and calm about going to get help because everybody else is at the same time. It's nice.
That's awesome, actually. And honestly, something I didn't necessarily think about.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. You know, freshman study hall has been an interesting thing to me because some students are actually commenting to some of our people as they're coming around. They actually like it, whereas you know in the beginning they didn't want it. But I am debating on the merits of kind of moving from you know the mandatory aspect of freshman study hall. You know, and again. These guys will laugh at me because I use the word ish all the time. I think ish is like probably the best word in life because everything is always ish, right? But what we tried to do was make freshman study hall mandatory. However, give people the opportunity of leaving early and sleeping in. So really make it mandatory for the middle periods. So that's you know one of the things that we're kind of taking a look at as we kind of head into the second half of the year. So, and again, there's a mix here with that, right? There's as you're looking through comments here, there's a mix of people who want that required versus mandatory. And I get some of the reasons why, and it may end up being that we have an opt into it in the second half of the year. It may be that it's mandatory. I get why some people would want to keep it mandatory though, so they don't get the pressure from their child to say, "Hey, get out," even though it's something that's good for you. So. Oh, one thing I want to share is somebody kind of talks about the study hall. I never want students to feel like we've talked about this as an administrative group. They're locked into a study hall. They can go anywhere they need to in the building. They just have to check in. So if they need to go see a counselor, go. If they need to go to the library, go. But they have to check in with their study hall teacher. We'll talk a little bit more. I don't want to totally, we are getting back to more of a more true midterm final experience this year. Without getting into the whole thing, we will have that kind of midterm week. It'll probably count a little less than it has traditionally. Like traditionally, midterms and finals kind of for 20% of the semester. You know, we worked through this with staff, but I'm not prepared to kind of release it. But I'll kind of share with you guys. You're looking probably 10% or less for those experiences. So they'll get the practice of the assessment. They'll get the practice of the importance of a midterm/final. But it might not count as high stakes as it did originally. You know what it had previously. I think there's a lot of good with that, especially during the pandemic, and we'll see, you know, where that goes in the future. But for this year, there will be a midterm/finals experience, but it will probably count for up to about 10%. But you'll get more information on that soon. But I just wanted somebody asked about that, so I wanted to share that with the group here. Awesome. I think that's pretty much all that we had. Is there anything else, Ari, Larry, or Christy, that you wanted to share that I did not share yet?
I don't think so. I thought it was really well said. I was
Well,
cutting
thank
in and
you.
out.
Thank
so-
you. I wanted that praise. Thank you. Somebody asked the question of Zoom classes. I don't know what they mean by that. If somebody wants to share.
There had been a previous question about whether I believe it was when students are away on college visits or something of that sort, Zoom classes could be allowed. And I know the state really moved this year to prohibit remote learning for students only in cases where there's an absolute need for them to quarantine or there's a serious health issue in the home that prohibits a student from coming to school. The state has done more to encourage in-person learning full-time.
And I think the state person said that's not fair. I get it. We don't have a say. The state kind of mandates what we can and can't do around that. Last year, we, set up a system that we can't do this year. They don't allow it. So it's really meant only for quarantines or people have severe health issues in the home, or if you're positive. So I get it. We don't have a choice because that's the law. That's what the state requires. So any other questions about any other topic? We try to kind of stick to a few things to talk about, but I'll be glad to take any questions that anybody has.
There's a question as to the status of the winter dance.
That's it's happening. We're talking to students about what's the best date for that. Up to them to kind of set that date up. I believe they're looking at February as a date, just with everything in December. They want to move it to February, but they're still trying to lock in that date. But we want that to happen. There's still some restrictions on mandatory masking that they're kind of bummed about, but that's still something we have to do for now. So it's going to happen. I don't have a date yet. So I just met with a student yesterday and I said, let's do it. I said, let's make this happen. So it's really a question of them choosing a date and getting set up for what that would be.
Another question that came in that was a different topic.
Yep.
The later start times next year and how you think it'll affect the school as a whole, including RAM time and after school sports.
So later start times, it's clearer from the scientific benefits of what it does for kids. So I won't speak to that.
Mhm.
Sports, I don't know. There may be some impact on sports on some early dismissals. RAM time could be impacted in the sense of what it would do is save instruction for students who might have a game that day. And if they had to leave early, RAM time would be in that spot. So it could pull away from their RAM time experience, but keep their instruction intact if they had to leave early. But that's only one of 5 days out of the week. So we'll see. I mean, the jury's still out on the sense of what's the impact. 'Cause we don't really know until you get into it if there's going to be an impact as far as early dismissals and things like that for sports, So I don't want to make any guarantees yet of that, with the exception of that we have RAM time in place, and that should help at least 1 day a week save to make sure the instructional experience is not interrupted at all.
And has there
Did I answer that question?
if you didn't, I'm sure we'll see it in the chat and I'll let you know.
That's
But
fine.
has there been any discussion of terminating the mask mandate with all the students being eligible for the vaccine? I think that's more of a state level. Right?
It is. We don't have a say in that, I think we're all, we'd love to see masks go away. I mean, honestly, there's not, a person who would love to see that go away. It's a question of, we have to follow the health guidance that the state, publishes, and ultimately we're going to do what the state tells us to do. So, talking about new hours, the start time hours would be starting at 8:30, and I think we'd end at 3:05 ish. It's all within that frame.
Next September.
Next September, yeah. The original talk was actually starting in April, but the board asked to put that off until September. So we would start at the beginning of the year. I may have said that wrong about masks. I would love to not have to wear a mask, but I'll do whatever it is that's best for students' health and safety, you know. And the state will give us guidance on that. Will athletes be allowed to leave early? I think it's referring to start times for next year, if they had to. Hopefully, we don't even have to do that. That's, you know, early dismissals will only be in cases where you have to leave early because you wouldn't be able to get into a game. So. Any other questions or topics that people would like us to cover?
Yeah, I would just encourage parents, this is a great opportunity to have all of your principals online here. So if you have any questions, now is the time to have at it.
And I will share this, like I tried to touch upon it earlier. You know, I think we're so fortunate as a school and system. Next week, I get to present at the Board of Education or an assessment presentation. And while I don't really love looking at data during the pandemic, you know, there's so much to be proud of here in a sense of how we came together as a community last year to make sure that our students, could be in person much of the time. It was halftime and, you know, and then by March being in full time. And I just feel lucky to work in a community where, you know, parents are so invested in their children's success, and the kids really are awesome. You know, they come to school, they're excited to be here. They really love this place. And, you know, I just want you to know that, you know, the kids are happy here and they love it. If there's any problem with any classes, I would always start with the teacher. If there's a question about the class, always ask. And then if there's a problem with wanting to change a class, work with your school counselor.
Bill, there's a more general question about perhaps utilizing the freshman study hall to focus more on study skills and test taking skills. I know there was an effort to push into the freshman study halls with our library media folks to do some units with students this fall. I think certainly, you know, we encourage kids to go in and see their teachers, particularly if they're struggling with a type of test. As an example, you know, are there strategies for taking a multiple choice test, which they might be facing in a science class or a social studies class for the first time? And I mean, I think our teachers do a good job of embedding that instruction of how to approach those types of tests as general instruction within the classroom. But certainly, I always encourage students to go in and meet individually with the teachers to gain some of those skills as well.
And there are modules that the library media specialists have embedded into those freshman study halls, and about 180 out of 300 have taken advantage of those modules. Some of them are working on skills. So they view that as a wonderful thing to kind of help them get ready. However, it's a balance between using the study hall for learning about skills and things like that, and also giving the kids time to have some ability to get some work done. The plan is, and that's what we talked a little bit earlier about study halls for freshmen, either continuing the second half of the year, but for next year, they will continue again for freshmen, not for any other grades. We're looking at this as a upperclassmen privilege, that they've learned how to navigate school and be successful learners here. Anyway, that's the goal anyway. Any other questions? Feel free to ask anything, well, within reason, about school. All right.
You're getting a few thank you for open, frank, and honest communication. So thank you.
That's all. We'll always be honest and try and do the best we can. Honestly, well, I guess I'll end with this. I really think this is an amazing school. I think it is the best school in the state, but we're not perfect, and there's always opportunities to evolve and get better, and we continually try and do that. We do listen sincerely to feedback from families and from kids. Our goal is to always be the best we can be, because I really think we have the best kids and the best families, and they deserve the best school. And so we try and do. But we do listen to feedback and try and get better. So I just want to thank you all.
Well, I want to thank all of you for joining us this morning, all of our principals and all the parents that are on here. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. A couple of reminders. Please always check out the weekly RAM that comes to you on Sunday night, the Ramogram that comes once a month. And if you're ever looking for links or information and you can't find it in either of those, you can always go to our website. So if the morning of, we do send the link in the morning, but on the off chance you don't find it, because I've gotten some questions about this, you can always go on the website and it's there. And I think that's it.
And the weekly update's a great spot for information too. So take a look at that. I send it home every
Right.
week.
Mr. Egan's weekly update. Yes. On Friday. Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks so
Thank you all so much. Take care, everyone.
Well.
Bye-bye.